All right, welcome to the March 21st meeting of the Glendale City Council, being called to order at 6:03 p.m. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, council members Asatirian. Here. Brotman.
Here.
Divine.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Mayor Kasakian.
Here. Now, for the flag salute, we have some very special guests in our chambers that we'll be recognizing for a very important accomplishment later, but I'd like to, in the meantime, call these young future leaders up to the podium to lead us in the flag salute. So who's the team captain for Glendale Region 88 AYSO Soccer Boys Club? Why don't you come on up and ask your teammates to join you, and you get the honor of leading us in the flag salute. Come up to this podium right here. And then, folks, after the flag salute, please remain standing for the invocation, which will be delivered by Clerk Avajan.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing.
I would like to begin by acknowledging that we are standing on the indigenous lands of the Gabrielino Tangva people. I will now read a portion of President Biden's proclamation on Women's History Month. The full participation of women is the foundational tenet of democracy. Women, often women of color, have been on the front lines fighting for and securing equal rights and opportunity throughout our country's history as abolitionists, civil rights leaders, suffragists, and labor activists. Women continue to lead as advocates for reproductive rights, champions of racial justice, and LGBTQI+ equality. Throughout history, these women have opened the doors of opportunity for subsequent generations of dreamers and doers. As community leaders, educators, doctors, scientists, childcare providers, and more, women power our economy and lead our nation. As first responders and service members, they stand watch over our lives and liberties. As innovators, entrepreneurs, and essential workers in every industry, they represent the very best of America. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Gentlemen, take a seat, and we're going to call you guys back up in just a bit. Okay, may we have your report?
The agenda for the March 21st, 2023 regular meeting of the Glendale City Council was posted on March 15, 2023 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And can we have the agenda preview for the meetings of Tuesday, March 28, 2023?
Certainly, Mayor Kasakian, members of the City Council. Next week, we have no special meetings in the afternoon, but we do have a joint meeting with the Glendale City Council and the Glendale Housing Authority. Two items on that agenda, first and second, both from Community Development. The first item is regarding the establishment of a Burbank-Glendale-Pasadena Regional Housing Trust, and the second is a public hearing related to the substantial amendment to the 21-22 Annual Action Plan Home ARP funding allocation. For the evening City Council meeting, we have 6 consent items. The first will be from Public Works regarding adoption of plans and specifications for the 2023 Slurry Seal and Crack Seal program, followed by a report from Police Department regarding acceptance of some grant funds from AYSO grant program. 4C would be from Water and Power regarding the award of a contract to Power Electronics. That would be for materials, equipment, and labor to test various regulators, transformers, and circuit breaker oil that the GWP manages. 4D will be Library, Arts, and Culture regarding a request to extend a purchase order with Calafia Group. At 4E will be the Fire Department regarding authorization of a 5-year agreement to the contract for Medical Director, Dr. Angelica Loza Gomez. And the final consent item that evening will be from the City Attorney's Office regarding a waiver of legal conflicts of interest. We have 2 additional action items that evening. Public Works will provide an update on the state of the urban forest, as well as a report asking council to reject all bids, approve revised plans and specifications, and amend the consulting agreement for the Pacific Park Playground and Pool Shade Structure project. And we'll round out that evening with one hearing from the fire department regarding the 2023 annual weed abatement program.
All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I wanted to, Mayor Kasaki, member of City Council, wanted to add that next Tuesday, March 28 at 8 a.m., we will have a joint meeting with Supervisor Barger at the Central Library.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Now, before I'm going to take one item out of order before our appointment to the Vector Control Commission. We are joined this evening by a group of very special individuals who we heard from earlier and leading us in the flag salute. Joining us in chambers is the Glendale AYSO Region 88 soccer team for under 14 and under. They recently won the Western States Championship on March 12, 2023. So let's give them a big round of applause. Now, the team finished the All-Star season with a record of 14 wins and 1 loss and went on to win the Area 1C All-Star playoffs and finished second in the Section 1 championship, which qualified them to play in the Western States Championship games. The score of the final game, I understood, was 5-0, with one of them scoring 2 of the goals. And the last time a team from Region 88 won the Western States Championship was in 2017 when the 14 and under girls team, coached by Gary Barsegian, took first place. So it's nice to see our young men following in the footsteps of our young women who are leading the charge on this Women's History Month. Joining us in chambers this evening, the AYSO Region 88 board members, Aldo Mascaroni, we have Harry Hanessian, Ross Paulson, coach of the team Adam Coppersmith, assistant coach Elijah Wasson, and William Kaufman as well is joining us. Also, a proud parent and GUSD board member, Jennifer Freeman. And the championship team players are Leo Desrosiers, Luca Bogosian, Jack Coppersmith, Ewan Kokorowski, Owen Wasson, Isaiah Tak, Michael Watanabe, Liam Kukurowski, Michael DeLeon, Andrew Schaefer, Nicholas Sarkisian, Dominic Ponce, Neil Harsman, Tyler Freeman, and Xavier Graham. And I hope I did justice to all your names. If I butchered anyone's name, I apologize. Why don't you guys come up and let's give you guys congratulations. Come up to the podium. And we have, I think, Aldo, are you going to say a few words on behalf of the team and maybe have the coach come up? Coach Coppersmith, why don't you guys come up?
Would you like me to say a few words?
Yes, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Aldo Mastroeni, and I'm the Regional Commissioner for Region 88 of the American Youth Soccer Organization, better known as AYSO. Thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to recognize our 14 boys sectional all-star team. They have won the AYSO 2023 Western States Championship. The Western States Championship brings all-star teams from all of California, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington to compete in a very elite level. Before I introduce the team, I would like to give a bit of background on your organization to give everyone a better perspective on their wonderful achievement. AYSO is a 501c3 charitable organization. Our program brings soccer to the children of Glendale, La Crescenta, and neighboring cities. As you know, Glendale does not have a government program for youth soccer, so AYSO is a de facto community soccer program that brings soccer to our children at a very affordable price. AYSO Region 88 typically has over 3,000 kids each year in our program. Our program is run completely by several hundred volunteers. We're talking volunteer coaches, volunteer referees, volunteer administrators. Our kids play soccer on city fields and school fields today as they did 50 years ago, and we thank you for giving us the opportunity to use the city fields to play these games. All-star teams are formed after the fall regular season. The most talented players are chosen for the various all-star teams, and the sectional teams are the elite players for that particular age group. Sectional all-star teams play sectional all-star teams from other cities and advance through various tournaments. Our under 14 and under sectional team advance through the area championships, sectional championships, and went on to win the Western States Championship. They are our champions. You already introduced the players and the coaches. We thank you for allowing us this opportunity to recognize these fine young men and their impressive achievement. On another note, currently we have almost 1,400 players playing in the spring season, and that is a new record anywhere, almost 1,400 players. Unfortunately, over 200 players didn't get a chance to participate because we do not have enough volunteer coaches. We urge you to let folks know that we do need help. If anybody wants to coach a soccer team, to let us know, and we will make sure that we include them in our list. There's no financial gain to be attained, but just the smiles on kids' faces make it all worthwhile. Again, once again, thank you very much for having us here today.
All right, thank you very much, and congratulations. Don't go far, because I'll get to present this to you. And in the spirit of full disclosure, I am an AYSO parent. My son's team, although they have a lot of heart, did not do as well as you all did. So the mayor's commendation reads as follows. Presented to AYSO Region 88, under 14 boys team. Coach Adam Coppersmith, assistant coach Elijah Wasson. We weren't able to print everyone's names on here on the team, so your coaches and assistant coach's name is on here, but this goes out to all of you. In recognition for winning the 2023 Western States Championships, your team's hard work and dedication in becoming a championship team is inspiring for the whole entire Glendale community. Thank you for being a shining example to all. On behalf of the city of Glendale, we wish you continued success. Signed by myself, Mayor, and I'll come down and present this to you. Coaches, why don't you guys come up? Parents, now's your opportunity. Come on, you guys are soccer players. Some of you kneel up front, right? You guys are all taking it. All right, let's do it. All right, everyone squeeze in. Collins in the back. In 2 years, I'll be kneeling. You want to hold this? Do we have the council? Good. All right. Congratulations, all. Thank you so much. Before you guys go off, the clerk has a city pin for each of you.
Put them on your wrist. Oh, yeah. There's so many medals and pins in the last couple of months.
That's all right, man. When are you going to coach?
Oh, never. I don't have. Councilmember Najarian is trying to talk me into coaching or volunteering, and I'm like, I ain't got time for that. But I appreciate it. I appreciate all the volunteers, and anyone who is watching who wants to volunteer, I encourage you. I barely have time to catch the games. You have to get there early. You have to set up the goals.
You have to referee.
It's a whole thing.
You have to referee sometimes.
I will say, in terms of organizing, how the AYSO organizes all these games that happen simultaneously on any given weekend on the same fields and the places they do them in and how they find them. And then photo day. If you ever want to see chaos, organized chaos, just go to AYSO photo day. So again, I tip my hat off to y'all. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. My colleagues, if any of you want to make any comments.
As a, if I may, as a former coach of every sport imaginable, congratulations. And I have to say, a 14-1 record is amazing. And then to go ahead and defeat, the other team 5-0 in the championship game, awesome. So congratulations to all of you. And moms and dads that are here, thank you for letting them play. And the coaches, good job.
Congratulations. Congratulations as a former parent of AYSO players, a former assistant coach. Sometimes they would let me call the balls in and out. Not for too long, though. Anyway, that's another story. Congratulations, and I'm sure you're going to remember this achievement for the rest of your lives. So congratulations and for making us proud.
Well, I'll just say congratulations. I'm not a former parent of an AYSO participant or a former coach, but I do appreciate that a lot of hard work and many, many, many hours, I'm sure, of practice went into this. It didn't just happen by itself. Am I right?
I'm going to join in the congratulations. I love this sport. I'm awful at playing at it, so hats off to you. I have seen the power of AYSO in our community, and the long effects, long after they graduate from the programs. I know that it creates a different kind of family, and so congratulations to the youth, and thank you so much to the coaches and volunteers.
Again, congratulations. I'm a traditionalist, so as long as we're honoring champions in actual sports versus esports, I'm happy to pass out commendations. I know some of you guys probably like esports, and you're probably avid video game players as you are on the field in actual soccer, but please continue to remain physically active, and thank you for putting Glendale on the map. Parents, thank you for encouraging them, taking them to practices, taking them to all their games, and we salute you all. You don't have to stick around for the rest of the council meeting, but you're welcome to if you want. Thank you. We totally understand it's a school night, so feel free to quietly make your way out of the chambers. The next item, Clerk Abajan.
Yes, the next item is appointment of Stephen Rifle to the Los Angeles County Vector Control Commission, Kasakian 3723.
All right, thank you. I made this nomination because Mr. Stephen Rifle had expressed an interest, and I don't think we had any other real applicants for this. So I think he's qualified and he's homegrown. So let me read you just very briefly a little bit about him. Stephen Rifle was raised in Glendale and attended Glendale Public Schools. He graduated from Glendale's best high school, Glendale High School. That's because it's the same high school I graduated from. As a newspaper reporter, he covered Glendale for both the Glendale News Press and the Los Angeles Times. He has worked in communications for the past 15 plus years with a focus on health and healthcare for Kaiser Permanente, for City of Hope, and for other organizations. So I think that'll be something that he can bring to bear as to how we can get information out about some of these diseases that could be spread by mosquitoes and other vermin. So with that, I present the nomination to council for a vote. And then he is also here in chambers to say a few words. Shall we have roll call?
Yes. Council members Asatryan,
Yes?
Brotman,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian.
Yes, congratulations. Mr. Rifle, why don't you come up and say a few words?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. Thank you for this opportunity to serve and represent the city of Glendale on this important commission. As Mayor Kasakian mentioned, I'm homegrown. I'm very much a native. Not only did I graduate from Glendale High as you did, I also attended Glendale College, and as you mentioned also, I started my career here as a journalist, covering this body for a number of years. I won't tell you how many years ago that was. The faces have changed and we've all grown. But the Vector Control is a very important commission. The work that's done there is continues to be very, very important. As you may know, West Nile continues to be a challenge. Over the past 20 years or so, California has experienced about 300 deaths and many more illnesses and hospitalizations. And it's the work of the commission and I think our work too to prevent death and disease in our community. We know that those that are older and suffering from underlying conditions are even more susceptible. So I'm hoping, as you expressed earlier, that my communications background could be of service and that we can help raise awareness about these issues and prevention measures. I've been involved in campaigns to raise awareness about flu vaccinations, COVID protocols. So I look forward to your direction and reporting back to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Congratulations. We look forward to hearing from you. Okay. Next item on the agenda.
Next are consent items. The following are routine and may be acted upon by one motion. Any member of council or the audience requesting separate consideration may do so by making such request before motion is proposed.
Are there any cards or any calls?
There are no cards or calls.
All right, with that, we'll entertain a motion for the consent
I'll move
calendar.
it.
Second.
And no one wishes,
No.
okay, moved and seconded. May we have roll call, please?
Yes, council members Asatryan,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian.
Yes, thank you. What is next?
Next are city council and staff comments.
All right, who would like to go first? Dan?
Either way.
Councilmember Brotman.
Okay. I just want to mention to everyone that we had an exciting groundbreaking for, I think, our largest affordable housing project to date. Is that right?
Yes.
That would be our largest affordable housing project. It's 515 Pioneer, which is basically at Pioneer and Pacific. We bought this parcel in 2019, so it's been 3 years to get to the point of a groundbreaking. And if you don't know the process of building affordable housing, it is very complicated. There are many steps, and so it does take a long time. But we did break ground even though it was raining. We went ahead and didn't let that stop us. This project will be for families and individuals earning between 30% and 80% of the LA County area median income. So they're for extremely low, very low, and low income. I think those are the categories. There will be about 337 units. 245 will be for families, and 92 will be for seniors. Unfortunately, it will still probably be 3 years until we are able to have those units occupied. So these things do take a long time, but we do have these units in the pipeline, in addition to 2 other projects which are ahead of this one in terms of their groundbreaking, Harrower Village and Citrus Crossing, which are both on Broadway. So this is not going to solve the affordable housing problem, but it is a step in the right direction and a pretty significant investment on Glendale's part. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Who else? All right,
Thank you.
Councilmember Devine.
Thank you. Councilmember Najarian and I serve on the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport Authority. And if you notice downstairs, there are some architectural designs for our new replacement passenger terminal. And so I would like to invite everybody that's here and those of you that are listening, you have 3 choices. And I hope that you will look at them and cast your vote. Those of you that are here, I hope you do that tonight. Those of you that are watching, when you're in the area, I hope you stop by City Hall, look at the 3 choices, make your pick, and see. We'll see which design gets first place for the replacement passenger terminal at the Burbank, Glendale, Pasadena Airport. And my second item is I would like to nominate Tom O'Shaughnessy for the Audit Commission. He served as my appointment for a time, but had to resign for grand jury duty, and he's back. I have an opening, and so I would like to nominate Tom O'Shaughnessy for the Audit Commission. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Councilmember Asatryan.
It was brought to my attention that a year and a half ago, the city council passed a thoughtful, well-intended policy on the appointment for mayorship. However, as a byproduct of that policy, I was made aware. Then later, our city attorney sent an email to all of us with a memo noting that I would not be able to serve as mayor during my term, as well as if I chose to run again, I would not be able to serve again in my second term, making it a total of 8 years. I know that this policy was not written for me or was not meant for this to happen, but the byproduct of this policy is simply unfair. There hasn't been a single council member in recent history who has not had the opportunity to serve as mayor during their term. As a matter of fact, there was only one woman council member in the history of our city who didn't serve as mayor. And while no one knows the details of why, it did take place, as I'm told, at least 25 years ago. I thought I had time to bring this issue up, but late last night, I learned that there's a separate resolution that notes that the appointment of the Housing Authority Chair dictates the next mayor. While I expect that this should have also been brought to our attention with the mayoral appointment process from staff, and I have grave concerns, I had to learn this on my own from a friend during a casual conversation. The meeting for the appointment of the next mayor is scheduled for April 4, after which, on April 11, we will be selecting the next Housing Authority Chair. All of this doesn't give us enough time to revisit the ordinance. I will be the first person in recent history and the second council member in the history of our city to have not had the opportunity to serve as mayor. I'm asking for us to reconsider the policy at a later date, but want to make clear that I would like to be considered for Housing Authority Chair on April 11th. I had the opportunity to meet with our city manager and city attorney today, who both agreed that it's not a fair system and this is not what it was meant to be for. But our city attorney also advised that council can override the policy for both mayor and Housing Authority Chair, noting in the best interest of or special circumstance. This is in no shape or form an attempt to take away an opportunity from any of my colleagues to serve as mayor. I'm simply asking for what's fair. All of you have either served multiple times, and Councilmember Brotman, you'll have your turn in just a few weeks, and I'm asking for the same courtesy. We are in March, marking Women's History Month. Our city made history by electing me as the first immigrant woman and first Armenian American woman council member. This policy would also rob them of the opportunity of having those first also as mayor. I want to have the same opportunities as all of you and those who came before us, and I'm asking for your courtesy and consideration.
Okay. Anyone have any comments from staff on this? City Manager Galanian, Mr. Garcia, I don't know. I will tell you that I don't know about the accuracy of the statement that was made about no opportunity for 2 terms, but I'd like to know what the rotation would potentially be of the possible council, depending on various scenarios, depending on re-election, if I get re-elected, if I in the next cycle, or Councilmember Devine, or whatever else. But I think it would be important for us to know, and I'd like to know that before moving forward with this.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, we can certainly, when the mayor selection process comes on April 4th, we can provide that information. Just for clarity, the information that I had provided was that assuming that both you and Councilmember Devine ran for re-election and both won, the order would be that Councilmember Sachin would not serve as mayor until 27-28. Not that she wouldn't serve through the 2 terms, but she's correct. She would not serve under the rotation system established by that ordinance. She would not serve during her current term, and that was
Not for 2 terms.
but not for 2 terms. It would be 27-28, assuming she ran in 26 and was reelected.
Okay.
But again, we'll provide all the information to you so you have it before the mayor selection and Housing Authority Chair selection.
Councilmember Najarian, I saw you.
No, I was asking for clarification on that issue.
Well, if we can get information circulated before that to the council,
Yeah.
that would determine my willingness to review this or not.
Mr. Garcia, the email that you had circulated on this went to all the council members, correct?
Correct. I would just re-forward it and then also add some additional information to address the Housing Authority selection, because I didn't address it in that email.
Thank you.
Did the city manager say that the our system that we voted on a year and a half ago is not fair?
No, not the system that you voted on, but it would not be fair for anybody not to serve as mayor. We've never had that. It's not, so
Yeah.
I think we, Councilmember.
Dave Weaver and Frank Quintero were excluded from several mayorships during their terms. Under the old system of let's collect votes and make it a popularity contest. That's why we went to this process, which we voted on to eliminate that and to have a more consistent and ascertainable rotation.
I was told that that's not the case, and again, I want to emphasize that I know that this policy was well-intended, and I actually believe in the policy. I just would like for us to revisit it.
Okay, thank you. Any other? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Is it pertaining to this?
No, not to this.
Councilmember Asatryan, was there anything else? Okay, thank you.
So some good news coming up at Metro. We are going to be voting on Thursday to allocate close to $500,000 to fund a bus service for South Glendale residents to visit the Dukmajan Wilderness Park.
Oh, that's great.
So that's coming up. But also, more importantly, something that we discussed, actually, Mayor, I think you discussed it. We have a motion, I'm a co-author of a motion for Metro to reach out to the cities in which there are transit lines and help the cities identify the most popular stops that do not have amenities for bus stops, and to work with the cities to find funding, whether it's through advertising or through a standard design and group purchasing to make the bus stops and shelters as affordable and as convenient to the riders as possible. So I know that's something you've
No,
been
thank you. Especially
talking about,
on
and that
a
was-
day like this, waiting for the bus without a nice bus shelter can be very challenging. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, Councilmember Devine?
I've already done.
Okay, all right. I know we have a long meeting this evening. I'll reserve my balance of my comments only to say thank you to the organizers of the Armenian American Museum Gala this weekend. Very well attended. It seemed like there was 1,000 people at this event. It was in one of the largest event venues that I've been to in a long time. I had an opportunity to address those gathered who are supportive of the project, and I mentioned that the groundwork for this was laid by prior councils. So I thank everyone who was there, everyone who was there in spirit, and everyone who's helped this project get to its second phase, and hopefully we'll see it completed in a not-so-distant future.
And you gave a great speech, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
you taught me what the parable of the stone soup is.
Stone soup, that's right.
So,
One of my son's favorite
thank
stories. With that, the next item on the agenda is community event announcements, 3-minute portion. Do we have? We do
Have 5
indeed.
cards,
So we have some cards here, and then do we have anyone on the phones? All right, so the first speaker would be Ms. Tamara Movsesyan, 3 minutes.
Լեջան, ես ճիշտ ասած կուզեի ծանոթանալ քո նախընտրական կոմպանիայի թեզ գրողի արխիտեկտորի հետ, ով որ գրել է։ Ես թվում է ինքը շատ խելոք մարդ է, ու ես իրանից շատ բան կարող եմ սովորել։ Եթե կարող ես ինձ ծանոթացրու իր հետ։ Եղավ բալես։
Կներես ում հետ։
Փոլա յոգուտ պերսատ, փոլա շատ է աշխատել օգուտ տակլետ էլի բնակիչներին, բայց ինչ-որ ձևով իր ուժը չի բավարարե, հիմա էլ, որ գնում ես retirement, good luck you, փոլա, when you go, okay? Արտաշես, դու, երբ որ դու City Clerk էիր, ես շատ մեծ հույսեր էի կապում քեզ հետ, որ դու դառնաս City Council member, City Mayor, շատ բան կվերափոխես գլեդելում, որովհետև դու բոլոր ծակ ու ծուկերը, թերությունները 5 մատիտ պես գիտեիր, բայց չգիտեմ, դեռ չգիտեմ, հետագայում ինձ կօգնեն իմ ընկերները իմանալ ինչի դու այդ բոլորը չարեցիր։ Հիմի ներկա պահին Արայդեի ասել Բիլայդի հարցի համար, ասեց, որ չէ, դա դու պիտի դնես քննարկման։ Բիլայդի ժողովուրդը ասեցին, որ պիտի City Council member-ները որոշեն, որ առաջի երկրորդ համարը նորից աշխատելու են Broadway Central-ով, որ մենք դա փոխենք, առանց իրաց որոշման, մենք փոխելու իրավունք չունենք։ Նենց որ, եթե դուք չփոխեցիք, իրանք ասեցին միակ ելքը, որ բնակիչները հարյուրավոր ստորագրություն հավաքեն, բերեն ձեզ տան, որ դուք ստիպված լինեք ժողովրդի ճնշման տակ դա անեք։ Ինձ թվում է առանց ժողովրդի ճնշման դուք ի վիճակի կլեք այդ հարցը լուծելու։ 11 համարի Բիլայդը առաջ աշխատել է $800 բրանդում աշխատողների համար, առավոտյան բերել է մետրոլինկից, ժամը 4-ից 5-ին տարել է, հասրել է մետրոլինկ։ Հիմի ինչ միտք ունի 11 համարի Բիլայդի աշխատանքը։ Մի հատ հլա մտածեք։ Եղավ։ Ես խնդրում եմ բոլոր բնակիչների անունից, ովքեր դժգոհ են Բիլայդի աշխատանքից, մերակի մանունից չի։ Արա, քեզ ասեմ, ես ժամանակի քեզ ասել եմ, երբ որ ինձ հարցրեցին Draymond, Weaver, City Manager, Ջեյմսի ժամանակվա այդ բանդայի ժողովրդի մասին, քո մասին էլ հարցրեցին։ Ես ասեցի, արան այդ կան խելք չունի, որ բանի լանդրի կանի։ Ես քեզ ասել եմ այդ իմ խոսակցությունը գաղտնիք չի ու քեզ ասելուց դու մենակ չէիր։ Նենց որ բանը, ես սխալ եմ եղել, որ դու խելք չունես մանի լանդրինգ անելու համար։ Դու հակառակը այնքան խելք ունեիր, որ այդ բանդայի մեջ չէիր մտել։ Եղավ, կներես, եթե, որտև դու ժամանակ ասիր, սխալ ես ասել։ Ես լացի չէ, ճիշտ եմ ասել, հետդ վիճեցի։
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Հիմա,
Thank you very much. Yes, go ahead.
ինչ եմ ուզում ասել, էն որ դու ասել ես, սրանից առաջ, որ ձեզ դրել է խոզի տեղ, եթե չեմ սխալվում, բաները, ասա, կոնտրակտորները, գիտես ինչ կներես, ձեզ բոլորիդ խոզի տեղ չեն դրել, ձեզ ոչխարի տեղ են դրել, այդ դրանք, իրանք են կազյոլ են, ռուսերը կազյոլ, փոխաբերական իմաստով ասում են, այն մարդկանք, ովքեր տանում են,
Ms. Movsesian, your time is up.
Սպասի, մի խանգարի, վերջի անգամ եմ խոսում, ամեն անգամ չեմ գալու ստեղ, հա, բանը, որ տանում են ոչխարների բոյնյա, սպանդանոց, իրանց այդ կազոլները, թրենինգ անցած կազոլները, են մեկ էլ դրդից հանում են, իսկ ոչխարներին մորթում են։
Ms. Abajian, how much time has gone on?
Երկրորդ խոսով, Լուսիկի փոխարեն ես խոսում եմ, Արտաշես։
Okay,
Հաջորդը Լուսիկ Ղազարյանն է, իրա տեղը խոսում եմ։
Թող Տիկին Ղազարյանը գա։ If Ms. Lucy Ghazarian is here, is Ms. Lucy Ghazarian here?
Էլ չխոսած, էլ չասես անգլերենի, մտամ հայերեն չես հասկանում։
Is Ms. Lucy Ghazarian here?
Անգլերենի իմ առաջին լեզուն է, բա չէ, անգլերենը քո առաջին լեզուն է, հայերենն է մոռացար։
Okay, Ms. Movsesian, is Ms. Ghazarian here? Tигин Ghazarian is Tafchi? No, that's not how it works, unfortunately. Can we take a 5-minute recess?
Up to you, Mr. Mayor, you can bang the gavel.
Well, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll be right back. Okay, all right, we are back, continuing with the 3-minute community event announcement portion, or those who wish to speak at oral communications for the truncated portion. That means you cannot speak again for the 5-minute portion. 3 minutes is 3 minutes. If you're going over a little to conclude a statement or a thought, it's understandable, but we ask that everyone maintain this time limit because out of respect for everyone else. Next speaker is Nancy Oshima. Nancy, are you here? Please, 3 minutes, followed by Steve Hunt and followed by John Schwab Sims.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. It's an honor to be here tonight. I'd like to read a letter from someone who could not attend the meeting tonight. This is regarding an issue that arose at last council meeting. Let me give you a little more background on me. My name is Nancy Oshima. I'm a 20-year resident of Glendale, and I am currently the secretary of the Glendale Historical Society. The letter I have is from Nancy Hunt Coffey, and unfortunately, she is unable to attend tonight. Dear Mayor Kasakian and members of the City Council, I apologize that I cannot deliver these words in person. My dad is Steve Hunt, the immediate past president of the Glendale Historical Society. At your last meeting, Councilmember Najarian referred to my father as a co-conspirator and accused him of theft crime and federal crime for sharing a document with the city without permission. He, of course, had permission, and his intent was to provide relevant information to inform an important city council decision. But I digress. My purpose is to tell you about my dad. My dad's first cousin, twice removed, was the very first mayor of Glendale, Spencer Robinson, known as the Singing Mayor, one of the first volunteer servants of Glendale. My dad has been a Glendale resident since 1947. He attended the Glendale schools and was the drum major of the Hoover High School Band. While attending Occidental College, my dad lived in Glendale, and a few years after my parents married, they bought our family home in Glendale, where he has lived till this day. One of my earliest memories was seeing my dad dressed as Santa Claus, delivering Christmas presents to underprivileged children. And the volunteer JCs held the annual Days of Verdugo Parade and Carnival, which was a lot of work. Over time, my dad has continued to volunteer at Dignity Hospital, helping families connect with their loved ones. Recently, my dad has volunteered as president of the Historical Society, which was also a lot of work. While some council members might find the Historical Society a thorn in the side of their intent, their intent is the same as yours, to recognize Glendale's past and create a meaningful future for the city. They may just have different ideas of what that future looks like. Even at 82 years old, my dad is still doing his part to help shape the future of his hometown. I hope that Glendale can be a place of civil discourse, where people can discuss issues and agree to disagree. Sometimes people say things they later regret, which probably is what occurred with Councilmember Najarian. When this happens, one should apologize. And so I call upon Councilmember Najarian to apologize publicly to my dad, a lifelong and dedicated resident of Glendale.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next speaker is Steve Hunt, followed by John Schwab Sims, and then we had one more card for Kathy Marfopoulos.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Steve Hunt, and I am the immediate past president of the Glendale Historical Society. My family moved to Glendale in 1947. My wife and I, when we were first married, lived in Eagle Rock from 1963 to 1965. We returned to Glendale, where we bought our first house in 1965. I now live in our second home in Glendale for 50 years. I attended Glendale schools from kindergarten through high school. I've been active in the community as a member of the Glendale JCs, a volunteer and foundation member at Glendale Memorial Hospital, and now as a member of the Glendale Historical Society. 2 weeks ago, when council was discussing Agenda 9A, my name was mentioned several times, and it was suggested that my action may have been a criminal act. The belief was that I shared a document owned by another person without getting the approval to share this information, which may be, in one person's opinion, theft and a criminal act. Since that meeting, I was able to show council members that I did indeed get written permission to share this document. I did share it with a member of the city staff and a member of an active organization that is involved with the history and future of the Riverside Rancho area of Glendale. The problem is, there were a lot of people at that meeting 2 weeks ago that may not be aware that I did have written permission to share this document, that I did not commit theft and a criminal act. The list of those who are unaware may include members of the city's legal department, the planning department, the city clerk, the city manager, people attending this meeting, watching this meeting, and those who may have watched the video of this meeting in the last 2 weeks are not aware that I did have written permission to share this document. So I'm here to try and set the record straight. I did indeed have permission in writing to share this document. It would be nice if the council would acknowledge that I did have permission. Perhaps it is too much to ask for an apology for the highly negative remarks made about the Glendale Historical Society and the suggestions that I may have committed theft and a criminal act. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Schwab-Sims.
Great. Dear Mayor Kasaki and City Council members, it's good to see you guys today on a rainy afternoon. During the March 7th City Council meeting, TJHS was deeply disappointed and concerned with erroneous accusations made by Councilmember Najarian. One included that our former president, Steve Hunt, improperly shared a historic resource report with city staff without permission. In that exchange, he stated that he committed a federal crime, which is a felony. Then he went on to say that if you as city council members reviewed that report, you would be abetting a co-conspirator of an intellectual theft crime. Again, that's a felony. Those accusations were not based on facts, as Steve Hunt was given permission by Emily Gable-Letty, who commissioned the report on September 8th, 2021, to share the report with Jay Platt and Jim DeCarly with Save Riverside Rancho. I've passed around a copy of the email approval and the problematic statements given during the March 7th City Council meeting for public record. We believe that City Council member Najarian could have confirmed that claim that Mr. Hunt improperly shared the report with a simple email or phone call to Mr. Hunt. At that point, the email giving approval could have been shared with him. It would be expected that Councilmember Najarian would have done the same due diligence in vetting information that he requested and expected from Jay Platt during the same City Council meeting. This is alluded to in the transcript that you just received. As you've heard tonight, Councilmember Najarian's comments were hurtful. First and foremost to Steve Hunt and his family, but also to TGHS. Our 1,300+ member organization has one primary mission, which is to foster pride and advocate for historical, architectural, and cultural resources in our great city. We love Glendale. Although TJHS and the city may not agree 100% of the time, we are always respectful, and we expect the same from our elected officials. So we respectfully ask for the following. Since the false accusations were made during a public meeting, leaving the impression that a federal crime was committed, we ask for a public apology and acknowledgement that Mr. Hunt did nothing wrong. We request that offensive comments be removed from the public record of the City Council, and we request that any meeting minutes be updated to correct misstatements. Lastly, a disclaimer be placed on the video recording of the meeting, which can still be seen by anyone in the world on YouTube. Glendale is a great city, and the residents expect high integrity and ethical standards from our elected officials. I am proud that I do see that on the dais during city council meetings. Governing is hard work and tough decisions need to be made, and we are appreciative of all your efforts. However, it's also important that when it's discovered a wrong has been committed, that we make it right. I hope that you agree that the remedies that I've outlined are fair based on the severity of the erroneous accusations made.
All right, thank you. We'll take there's one more card for this portion of public comment, but I know that since many of these comments pertain to one of my colleagues and he's indicated that he would like to respond, I'll defer to Councilmember Najarian.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did review the transcripts. I did review the tape several times, and I believe the transcript Mr. Schwab-Sims has presented is correct, and it is clear that I do not make an accusation of Mr. Hunt. I can cite it, but you all have it in front of you. It says, taking someone's intellectual property and passing it forward is a theft crime, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not saying Mr. Hunt did that. But council members, we saw the owner of that document come before us in person, a person who is well respected in the community, and we could read her biography, who is also an Occidental College grad, as am I, so this is maybe an intramural scrimmage that we're having here. And she said that she did not give authority for that to be passed on. There was an email chain going on. Ms. Gable-Luddy read that email chain and still insists that that was not a authorization to transmit it any further. So I think that's essentially where we are today. I don't want to get back and rehash the things about the DJSS. I would have loved to have seen you here at that moment to answer some of these. This is a report that was dropped with our staff. There was no one to answer for it. The author was not around. I stand by the transcript, and if anyone thinks the transcript is in any way a slander of Mr. Hunt, I invite you to take further action, but I think it's clear that there is not a direct accusation. So I think we just need to move on from this.
Okay. Well, I'll comment on it after we're done with our public comments. So next speaker is Kathy Marfopoulos. Ms. Marfopoulos, you'll have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Artie and council members. I'm Kathy Morfopoulos. I wanted to explain why you're hearing so much from us, from Glendale residents on the subject of how to prevent drug and alcohol abuse, especially with the young. So what happened is I'm a volunteer with two coalitions. One's called Rethinking Access to Marijuana, and another one is called Uniting Communities for Equitable Health Policies, called USEP. Now, both of these coalitions are LA County-based, and they're safety providers, health and safety. They're paid by the taxpayer. The representative from UCLA is the lead of USEP, and 50 of these members meet every month to talk about how do we combat the drugs in our community that includes alcohol. Now, these coalitions consist primarily, if you could see them, they're young, they're educated, they're minorities, many of them are women, and they're passionate. And I joined because I'm a volunteer. I'm interested in this subject. But these other people, you would be very impressed with their degrees and their level of passion. So their passion is about how do you get the community members in their areas, and a lot of these areas are very poor, and they want the youth in their neighborhoods to grow up with their brains intact. You've all heard the brains developing, etc. So it's not that I'm trying to lecture you, but I got assigned a task because I'm from Glendale. And none of the USEP and the RAM members are members, they don't live in Glendale. They said, Kathy, you get to take Glendale. So if you're wondering why I'm up here week after week, I only have one more talk to give you, or maybe I'm done. Maybe this will be my last one. But nevertheless, it's not going to go on forever. So the task is to explain why we want to ban flavors in marijuana products. It's the same reason as tobacco. Flavors hook kids. Why do we want to fight kid-friendly packaging? Same as why we did it for tobacco. Why do we want to fight against medical marijuana shops using the medical marijuana card to get the 18-year-old to start their drug habits? Same reason. So I agreed to do this task. I know I'm a volunteer. I don't have the credentials and the yada yada, but I'm telling you, there's a tremendous amount of resources. They'd all absolutely love to communicate to the public. Glendale, in their opinion, has not the problems that North Hollywood has and many other cities have. We've escaped a lot of the troubles, and good for us. But today, the opioids, the fentanyl, the meth, the marijuana, these have all been re-engineered to damage the young. And it doesn't stop at our borders. You know what I mean? It's coming across our borders, not as bad as other areas. So I just want to let you know that they're worth listening to. I'm just speaking on their behalf, and that's why I've been somewhat haranguing you guys, not intentionally, but I believe you guys have influence. Some of you guys have political aspirations. I want to communicate that we could use some encouragement on keeping our kids' brains in one piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marfopoulos. All right, so that is the conclusion of that 3-minute portion. As to the statements, first of all, I want to thank the individuals who came from the Glendale Historical Society, Mr. Hunt. I respect and commend your family's presence and involvement in our community for many years. I had the honor and privilege of working with your daughter when she was the director of our libraries, and now she's with the city of Beverly Hills. And I have no doubts to your integrity and your willingness to do things the right way. You've raised a great daughter, and that's a reflection of the great parents that she has and the values that they've passed on to her. As far as what was said and the requests by Mr. Schwab-Sims in terms of altering a public record, I would defer to our city attorney in a moment to explain as to what can be done. I personally can tell you that whatever is said in these public settings, no matter what they may be, I personally take exception with altering public records, even if it's something that I've said. The record is the record, which is why we have these recorded meetings, and the opportunity to set the record straight is precisely this evening. And I appreciate you sharing these informations along with the communication that shows that there was, at least in an email format, to take this at face value to allow for something to be passed along to the city staff. Now, I can assure you that for me in my decision-making process, that I did not take into consideration the assertion or assumption that there was some sort of activity that was not in compliance with the law in making that decision. My decision was based on the merits of the case as they were presented that evening and what was in the best interest of that piece of property and the appellant. But I do think that, you know, we all can take from this a possible teachable moment in checking our facts, both in terms of the city staff as well as ourselves as council members and those involved in it from the appellant side and Ms. Luddy as well. I will, if the takeaway from this is that you feel that you are being accused of something that was against the law, I apologize. Certainly I did not think that you had done something illegal, and looking at this, I don't think it was done illegally. And so I apologize if you feel that way, and I hope that this record will stand that, at least according to what you and Mr. Schwab-Sims have presented, that there was an acknowledgement of passing the information along to Mr. Platt. Any other comments or questions? Okay. So with that, let us move on to the next item on the, well, Mr. City Attorney, before we go, what is the process in terms of putting a disclaimer or removing something from the record or altering a public record?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of council. So I think, as you noted, the records are the records, and so I would say that the laws governing record retention, public records, would prohibit the city from altering a record, public record. The video of the meeting is that, and we don't. I don't think the law would allow us to put such a disclaimer on there. I would note that the minutes from the March 7th meeting, like all of our minutes, are action minutes, so they just describe who spoke, what the action was, and what the council's vote was. So in terms of the minutes from that meeting, that's all they described. So there wouldn't need to be any, even if there was a dispute about what was said, there wouldn't need to be an amendment to the minutes in that regard. So I hope that answers the question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah. Unfortunately, folks, this is as real as reality television gets, right? So it's recorded, it's online. If someone says something about myself, any of our colleagues, whether it's true, whether it's false, it becomes part of the record. And, we rise and sink with the ebb and flow of the public sentiment. So unfortunately, we can't edit the videotape. That is not possible, even if that is a desire and a request. So I apologize for that. With that, let's move on to the next item.
Our next item is adoption of ordinances, a community development regarding an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Glendale authorizing the execution of a development agreement by and between the City of Glendale and Adelphia Properties 2 LLC, a Delaware Limited Liability Company, Armenian 6/14/2022.
Okay. Mr. Galanian.
Mayor Kasaki, member City Council, the development agreement, as it was read into the record, was introduced back in June of 2022. We had planned to bring the adoption of that ordinance to council a couple of months later. However, due to the length of the agendas, items on council, for council meetings, we postponed it, and then later on the development team and the property owner were not available. So they are here tonight, and we are requesting that this development agreement with the development team of Adelphia Properties number 2 be adopted as it was introduced. Now, if you have any questions, as I mentioned, the development team is here, as well as our planning staff that may be able to respond to your questions.
Go ahead, Councilmember Brown.
And this is because I've gotten some questions myself on this. I know the answer, but I just want it stated for the record that this project will be subject to the REACH codes that we passed late last year that went into effect January 1st for full electrification, as well as the other elements of that REACH code. Can you confirm that?
That's correct, Councilmember Brotman.
Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Najarian.
So I'm happy we got to this point. I know the Cimarustis have been great corporate and individual citizens in the city. You've got the space lab, the science lab at GCC. You've been great boosters, and that played a big role in my support of this. Are you guys going to build this, or are you going to send it off into the marketplace for someone else? We named it after your mom, Lucia. Grandmother. I hope that you build it. You don't have to answer. I'm not going to say, as a councilman did, give us $200,000 for affordable housing. But I just hope that you guys go through with this. It's going to be a very monumental and iconic product in this city. And I hope we can still point to it and say, that's the Cimarusti Tower. So those are my feelings.
Councilmember Devine? If you don't have comments.
No, I don't.
Okay. All right, we do have one card submitted for this, Mr. Rodney Khan.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and City staff. My name is Rodney Kahn, and I will be very brief. As you note that we started working on this project, it was over 6 years ago. It was the summer of 2016. And we went through quite a number of variations on this project. In fact, from stage 1 approval to the stage 2 approval, we completely redesigned the project. So there was a number of different code changes, and as Councilman Brotman pointed out, even up to January of this year with the REACH codes. So we went through code changes, we went through impact fees being implemented. We've been through it all over these last 6 years. So now we're finally here. This is our last public hearing on this project, we hope. And we ask that you take into consideration all the different changes that have taken place. The construction costs are going up. They're all over the place. We have interest rates going up. It takes time to arrange the financing, both the debt and the equity for the long term, and even plan check and permitting on a project of this scale and this magnitude takes quite a bit of time. So I'll conclude my remarks. We ask that you adopt this ordinance. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Najarian, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan. Gray is your color, I think, though. You look quite dapper. Don't forget that in 2019, we implemented the moratorium. Was it 2019? About that. So that completely put your project on ice. So I do appreciate, that was an inconvenience for your clients because they were getting ready to go. And we as a council said, wait a minute, we're going to have to freeze everything. I do appreciate the patience with the city. It wasn't just the time loss. There were some code improvements. We made you change the design a few times. So from 2016 to today, I do appreciate the perseverance and hope that we, as I said, have a very quality product that we can all be proud of. So thank you.
All right, if there are no other comments, Councilmember Assadrian, before we take action on this, was there anything you want to ask?
I'm going to be abstaining from this vote. I wasn't around for this, and I don't have enough background, and I don't feel right voting on this.
I'll move the ordinance then, Mr. Mayor, if you're ready.
I'll second.
Okay. Now, before we take a roll call, let me just say that I was not around for the original approval of this. I have seen the schematics, and I have met with the developers. Personally, I liked the original design that had come before council better than this current one. And as much as I kind of bristle at the fact that we have had a lot of development in downtown, and this is near a transit corridor that I think is going to have some impacts. My understanding is that hopefully staff will work with the developers to mitigate some of the impacts, that we have an obligation to approve development in the downtown area. And although it's not my first instinct, I do want to ensure that whatever we do get that is required for us to build by state law is at least something that we can appreciate and have enhance the quality of life of our community. So with that, let's have a roll call.
Council members Assadrian,
Abstain.
Brotman,
Yes.
Devine,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian.
Yes. Good luck. Under action items, let's have 8A.
Action item 8, Community Services and Parks regarding introduction of ordinance authorizing execution of a lease agreement between the City of Glendale and Babak B. Golbahar for the Verdugo Job Center facility located at 1255 South Central Avenue, Glendale, California, 91204 for a 3-year period from April 1st, 2023 to March 31st, 2026. 1, introduction of ordinance authorizing execution of a 3-year lease agreement between the City of Glendale and Babak B. Golbahar for the Vertigo Job Center facility. 2, motion authorizing the city manager or designee to execute all agreements, certifications, and documents necessary to accept and implement the funding of the lease.
Okay, Mr. Galanian.
Yes, Mayor Kasaki, member of City Council. There is an existing lease agreement, which was a 10-year lease actually, for the VJC facility that will expire on March 31st of this year. And the landlord, the property owner, has agreed to a new 3-year lease agreement with a monthly rate of $58,135 starting April 1st and up to and through March 31st of 2026. Our charter requires that council adopt an ordinance for any lease agreements for longer than period of 5 years, and hence the request that you introduce council this ordinance for the lease agreement for the VJC site. If you have any other questions or need or like additional information, Judith Velasco, our Workforce Development Administrator, is available to respond.
All right, Councilmember Brotman?
No, I was going to move the item if nobody had any questions.
Okay, and is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilmember Brotman and seconded by Councilmember Devine. Let's have roll call, please.
Councilmembers Asatirian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, can we just get somebody to introduce the ordinance as well?
Can someone,
Introduce the ordinance.
and it was introduced by Councilmember Devine. Okay, next item.
Item B, Glendale Water and Power regarding amendment number 2 to contract number 8000616 with ARB Inc. for ongoing Grayson site mechanical and field service support. 1, motion authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute amendment number 2 to contract number 8000616 with ARB Inc., adding the amount of $180,000 to replenish the contract amount for the emergency service work provided to unit number 4 boiler water wall tube cleaning at the Grayson Power Plant.
Okay. City Manager Galanian.
Yes, Mayor Kasaki, member of City Council. This is a second amendment to the contract with ARB for ongoing Grayson site mechanical field services support. The request is for $180,000 to replenish the contract amount for emergency services. This would be for the Unit 9, Unit 4 boiler water wall tube cleaning, and in case that we need the services for the only unit that will be left operational, Unit number 9, and in time before the next heat wave and the peak load. And if you like a more detailed presentation or have any question, Mr. Mellon, our Assistant General Manager of Water and Power, is available to provide that.
Okay, does anyone want to hear staff's report on this item?
I think it's if I may, I think it's something that needs to be done, so I would move the item.
Okay.
Oh, I was going to say,
You wanted to hear?
well, I think it's of enough public interest that we should hear
All right.
at least
Good
a
enough.
high-level summary
Mr.
of
Mellon,
what
if
it
you can
is.
give us a summary of this for this?
Sure.
Thank
If
you.
you'd like me to, I can go through the slide, or I
Sure.
can... Okay. I'll make it quick. Good evening, Mayor Kasakian and members of the council. Scott Mellon, Assistant General Manager at Glendale Water and Power. Essentially, I'm here to request approval of a second amendment to an existing contract with ARB Incorporated to replenish funds in support of services for the Grayson facilities. There we go. Give you a little background first. As council may recall, Glendale experienced a significant heat storm in the first weeks of September, 9 days in a row over 100 degrees. We did manage to avoid load shedding, and having Unit 4 available to us played a significant role in that avoidance. In the months before the heat storm, GWP staff had already recognized that Unit 4 was essential to maintaining local grid stability and had expected it would be available. Unfortunately, Unit 4 had some issues. With knowledge of the summer peak approaching and the fact that Unit 8A was unavailable due to grounding issues, GWP staff recommended that a complete water wall boiler tube cleaning should be performed on Unit 4 on an emergency basis. On July 27, 2022, with the approval of both the GWP General Manager and the City Manager, the emergency repair work was started. It was anticipated that the emergency repair would be completed on September 9th. However, with the forecast of record-breaking heat wave and the potential for rolling blackouts for August 31st through September 9th, ARB Inc. and GWP staff pushed through to complete the work and made Unifor available a week ahead of schedule on September 2nd. Unifor provided much-needed system support throughout the extreme heat event. In addition, Glendale was able to respond to the California Energy Commission's emergency call for additional supply by exporting excess generation to the California AYSO. This is just a quick look at the work that needed to be done. Looking at the image on the left, you can see that the header is clogged due to slag left from the Unifor boiler retubing effort. That's the far left. And inside the header, while it's getting clean, is just to the right of the far left. And then all the way to the right is what it looked like afterwards when it was fully cleaned. The current contract with ARB Inc. will expire on September 10th, 2024. This contract is utilized for maintenance and/or repair work as needed at the Grayson power plant. With the expenditure of $180,000 on the emergency work to Unit 4, the contract requires replenishment from GWP to be able to utilize ARB's services during the remainder of that contract term. Based on the foregoing, staff is respectfully requesting that the City Council authorize Amendment Number 2 to the contract with ARB Incorporated to replenish the $180,000 spent for the emergency work. Amendment Number 2 will increase the total not to exceed amount of the contract to $1.23 million. Any questions?
Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I apologize because I thought this was the next item, which is the one I think is of more interest. So, yes.
I wouldn't have briefly described that item myself.
Can I tell you, though,
Okay.
that
So I'll move it.
that
Well,
was a very exciting
you
photo
moved it?
comparison, the before and after, so there's a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, moved by Councilmember Devine, seconded by Councilmember Brotman. Let's have roll call, please.
Councilmembers Asatryan?
Yes.
Wait, before we do, was a call on this item or the next one?
It was, but they dropped.
They did drop.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Let's continue with the roll call.
Sure. Councilmembers Asatryan?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Devine?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian?
Yes, thank you. Next item, please.
Next item, Glendale Water and Power regarding Grayson repowering project, award of demolition and site improvement contract, and amendments to professional services agreements. 1, motion authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute a contract with Silverado Contractors, Inc. for the Grayson repowering project demolition and site improvement. Request for proposals specification number 3905 in the amount of $27,218,735 plus a 20% contingency in the amount of $5,443,747. 2, motion authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute an amendment to the city's existing professional services agreement, contract number 8000053 with Stantec Consulting Services, Inc., increasing the contract amount by $700,000 for additional as-needed professional environmental support services for the Grayson repowering project for a new total contract not to exceed amount of $2,368,582. 3, motion authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute an amendment to the city's existing PSA with Black & Veatch Corporation, contract number 8000847, increasing the contract amount by $3,600,000 for additional as-needed owner's engineering services for the Grayson repowering project for a new total contract not to exceed amount of $6,373,068. 4, resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute an amendment to the city's existing PSA with Clean Power Consulting Partners, contract number 8000941, increasing the contract amount by $1,200,000 for additional as-needed project management and consulting services for the Grayson repowering project for a new total contract not to exceed amount of $1,650,000. 5, resolution of appropriation.
Okay, City Manager Galanian?
Yes, Mayor Kasaki, member City Council. For this item, I will go directly to Scott Millen, our Assistant General Manager of Water and Power.
Thank you very much. Just wait for it to come up. Once again, good evening, Mayor Kasakian and members of the council. I think we'll kick it off with a current update on the project at Grayson. Unit 9 separation work is ongoing and on schedule for completion by June 2023. For the demolition and site improvement RFP, GWP received and evaluated 3 proposals. The proposal from Silverado Contractors Incorporated is ranked the highest and has the lowest cost. City staff and Silverado have negotiated a contract. Silverado is currently scheduled to mobilize to the site by July 2023. All demolition and site improvement work is scheduled to be completed by the end of August 2024. Balance of site engineering procurement construction RFP was revised and reissued to encourage greater vendor participation. The mandatory pre-proposal conference is scheduled for April 18th, 2023. The deadline to submit minimum required qualifications packages is May 2nd, 2023. And all proposals are due to the city by August 8th, 2023. Phase 2, limited notice to proceed work with Wardzilla is progressing. 30% design review is scheduled for May 3rd and 4th of 2023. 60% design is expected to be completed by the middle of August 2023. South Coast Air Quality Management District permitting for the 3-engine project is progressing steadily. With respect to bond funding, a bond ordinance will be presented to City Council in the coming months once the cost of service analysis is complete. Current project efforts are on schedule. We have construction is anticipated to start by September 2024 and be completed by July 2026. Phase 1 of the battery energy storage system is anticipated to come online in 2025. The proposals were evaluated using predetermined criteria and recommended for award on a best value basis as determined by the city. The criteria included minimum mandatory qualifications, that was just a pass or fail, base proposal price, 45% or 45 points, conformance with city requirements, proposed schedule of values, 5%, conformance with technical requirements, 10%, proposal supplement and presentation was 15%. In this one, the city will consider value engineering proposals, if any, made in the proposal supplement, and may add up to a total of 5 additional points to the proposer score based upon the city's evaluation thereof. Proposer qualifications was 25%. Upon review of the proposals, all 3 were found to meet the required minimum mandatory qualifications. Following the proposal review, a set of clarifying questions was prepared and emailed to each of the proposers for their response. All 3 proposers responded prior to their formal presentation as requested. A formal presentation was then provided by all 3 proposers, giving staff the opportunity to evaluate the project team's cohesiveness, their understanding of the project, and their plan to safely demolish the plant and improve the site soil conditions as requested. Silverado's proposal was determined to be the highest evaluated on a best value basis. Their proposal offered the lowest cost while also achieving the highest score as specified in the instructions to proposers. Silverado also proposed a $1.8 million value engineering alternative, deep soil mixing, that could potentially further reduce the cost of the demolition and soil improvement work, and is also of interest to Wardzilla to potentially reduce their cost and schedule by reducing the need for piles. Now, just a quick explanation, piles are pounded into the ground, and we were considering on the level of 200 originally in this site. So these options kind of reduce the potential for a vibration through the ground, noise in the neighborhood, and a lot of other complications associated with that. Silverado, by adjusting their work schedule, can complete the demolition and site improvement work within the city's planned 14-month schedule. Staff checked the State of California Contractors License Board and found Silverado to have current and active licenses in good standing. Silverado has satisfactorily completed similar demolition work in Southern California, notably the demolition of Los Angeles Department of Water Power's Scattergood Unit 3 and Haynes generating stations. Staff respectfully request council authorize the agreement Silverado Contractors Incorporated for amount not to exceed $27,218,735 plus a 20% contingency in the amount of approximately $5.5 million. The contingency amount is driven by such unknowns as underground conditions due to the operational age of the facility, which is approximately 82 years old, and the potential to encounter contaminated soil during closure of the 20-foot deep fuel oil bunkers. Staff also respectfully request council authorize the 3 amendments to the Stantec, Black and Beach, and CP Squared professional service agreements in the amount specified. These amendments cover the estimated cost of support in the next phases of the project. Finally, staff respectfully request council adopt a resolution appropriating the required funds. Thank you, and I'm open for questions.
All right. Does anyone have any questions?
I do.
Councilmember Najarian, then Councilmember Brotman.
So I see that with the Silverado demolition component, you've included quite a large contingency.
Yes.
And is there any, so you've got the subsoil issues that may arise. Any issues potentially with asbestos or lead or?
We know the main building has both those things.
Okay.
We've already planned, and that's part of the bid to do the abatement process.
Okay.
They're well versed in performing those tasks, and they will have others, subcontractors who are very well versed in that, performing the abatement.
So you don't see any other potential
No, the biggest
budget busting
unknown,
conditions that could exist?
sorry, the abatement process is pretty well known, and it's all above ground, and we can take samples, and we have a good understanding. Our bigger concern is what we don't know about and what we can't see underground, especially around those oil bunkers. We've done sample drilling to bring up elements in there, and it seems fine right now, but we haven't gone down deep enough, and there's a lot of work that we have to get to that area. So we want to make sure that we have sufficient funds to remediate as necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Councilmember Brotman.
Yeah, I was just hoping the city attorney could talk about the 2 lawsuits that are going on and whether there are any implications for the decision that we're making today.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Councilmember Brotman, I do know that we've received correspondence from counsel for one of the petitioners in those lawsuits, the Glendale Residents Against Environmental Destruction of Grade, contending that this action could potentially deprive the court of jurisdiction over the matter, and that's not true. The staff is asking to move forward with the next steps of this process. The court is holding a hearing in July on this matter. The issues raised by Grade will be fully briefed and decided by the court. At any time, if any petitioner wants to prevent or have the city stop from moving forward on the project, they have their authority to seek a preliminary injunction or any other type of relief that they feel is necessary. We feel that based on the evidence that was in the record and the law, that the council's actions in certifying the ER will be upheld. So we don't see a reason not to move forward based on those lawsuits.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
One question.
Yes, Councilmember Devine.
Mine is on the CP Squared. It says that we are increasing this this cost of service to 1.2 million. What was it before?
Okay, I had that on there.
And why? Is it because of time or
Yes, so
issues or?
No, the increases are all to cover the planned work that they're going to be doing for us. So any additional funding that we're putting in for all the services are to cover services specific to this task. The work that they've done in the past was covered by past dollars. So nothing has changed except we have more information about what's happening and it's applying to this phase.
So there are other issues that we're having to deal with that we didn't know about to begin with?
No, they just weren't included because it's not that they're new issues. This is the new phase in the project, so we're adding dollars to those services to include this next phase.
All right, and the Black and Beach 3.6 million for the 3 items that are listed, okay, that seems like a lot. But then you go on to say that we may need them for other reasons.
Black and Beach is our owner's engineer, so they are doing a significant part of that. Yes, it's possible we could be using them in the future on other projects, yes.
But it's still not to exceed 3.6.
That's all we're asking for right now, yes.
Oh, right now, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
No problem.
I have one more thing if nobody else.
Councilmember Bromley?
Yeah, I think it would just be interesting for the public to hear the timeline. If you could just describe it a little more. I know we talked about it and you said this demo and soil work should begin this summer, July, and run somewhere between 12 to 14 months. You also told me, that we would have 3 kind of challenging summers when we're going to have only Unit 9 and none of the others. Could you just walk through a little bit of what this is going to look like?
So this next summer coming up will be the first of the challenging summers, probably the least of the challenges because our load has not, or we're not anticipating increases significantly, but we are expecting some issues in 2023. 2024, we're expecting to be more difficult because Unit 9 will be the only unit available to us, and we're working with LADWP to get additional energy from them and, working as close neighbors with LA, hoping that they will provide the support. And it goes beyond hope. I guess hope is not the right word. We've negotiated deals with them to cover a term energy supply, and then we're looking at day-ahead and spot markets to fill in the gaps where we can. We are limited in transmission, as we've discussed in the past, especially during the summer peaks. So we will be straddling the line when it comes to supporting the system and making sure that everything stays lights on, system stable, everything moving forward. And we're working in an environment right now where it's a little tough to find energy out there. So the faster we can move on these things, the better. I know that Shoal Canyon coming on in 2025 will help us considerably. Hopefully we can maintain that schedule. I also know that we are shooting to have the part of the battery system online in 2025 to help us bridge that gap also. If we can do that, that'd be significantly helpful. We also know that 2025 has the current IPP unit going down, and hopefully the repower being established and coming online if all the schedules work out correctly. So we do have a confluence of things that, if all goes well, it will be fine by 2025. 2024 is going to be a bumpy year, and we'll be looking to manage that in every way we can.
And are we going to be, or have you thought about developing any kind of emergency procedures short of just arbitrarily shedding load? But what we've had in the past where we've had voluntary actions by some of our major utility users, right?
Yes.
When we've been in a crunch. Are we thinking about, maybe getting some of those understandings in place ahead of time so that we're prepared? Because this, they're saying we're going from a La Nina to El Nino. It could be a very, very, very hot summer. It could be a record hot summer. So how are we going to do this?
We do plan on relying on our demand response program. We do plan on working through distributed energy resources as we can get them installed and put into use. The council saw fit very wisely to allow us to do solar installations around the city. So we have those 8 installations we're planning on. I think we're still working out the timeline for that, but obviously we have, there's a significant benefit for us to get those things up and online sooner than later. all the tools that we've had previously will still be available to us in respect of managing our load shedding technique, for lack of a better words. We still will be coordinating from our Energy Control Center to see if a load shed is necessary. We would never continuously shed the load in the same place. We would have to do rolling brownouts, I think is what we would normally call them. But we will be doing everything possible to avoid that scenario, and that's why we are staying in constant conversation with LA in coordinating availability of additional resources from their system into ours, because we know that during the time when these high load events are occurring, transmission is just not there, and we will need to lean on LA to support us in some of those instances.
Yeah, I would just encourage you to be reaching out to some of these large users like the Disneys and the Glendale College and some of the other the hospitals, some of the largest users, and kind of tee it up a little bit. Like, we think we can get through. We think we could buy the energy. LA will support us, but just in case.
Yeah. It's probably an intelligent plan to figure out where backup energy is supplied. Hospitals have backup energy supplies, so if we really get into a bad case scenario, it's possible we would ask them to turn them on and help carry some of their load. So,
thanks a lot.
Right. With that, if there are no other questions or comments, I think a lot of good questions and a lot of good information was exchanged. This is an important first step in realizing some of our goals for providing our residents with the energy that they demand, the power that they demand. There's 4 motions and 1 resolution. Can they all be taken in one motion collectively?
Yes, they may.
Okay. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I'll move the package of 4.
Second.
What, 3 motions and 1 resolution?
4 motions and 1 resolution.
4
of a
motions and 1
resolution.
resolution.
I'll second.
Thank you. Let's have roll call, please.
Council members Asadrian,
Yes.
Brotman,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Kazakian.
Yes, thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay. Next item.
Next item is City Clerk regarding City Council resolution in support of the inclusion of an Armenian checkbox under the MENA category in the 2030 U.S. Census. 1 resolution supporting the inclusion of an Armenian checkbox under the MENA category in the 2030 U.S. Census.
Okay, this is in order for us to author a letter, right, of
Yes.
support?
This resolution is regarding the new draft race ethnicity questionnaire for the 2030 census that was recently released by the U.S. Office of Management and Budget. The OMB is seeking public input and public comments. This resolution is in support of the newly proposed MENA category on the questionnaire and for the inclusion of an Armenian subcategory checkbox on under the MENA category. The city of Glendale has the highest concentration of Armenians within the U.S., yet we lack meaningful and accurate data on the Armenian population of our city, which impacts issues such as housing, business, healthcare, education, etc. An Armenian checkbox would enable better collection of data on the Armenian population in the U.S. and will also result in more support, funding, and services to address the needs of the Armenian American community in our city.
Right, thank you. We have 2 cards on this. Unless any of my colleagues have questions or comments? No? I think it's a pretty straightforward item.
I have a comment. Take the question.
Let's hear from Sophia Armen first, and then Ayana Hamanyan, I believe. Both on 8D. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here today, Honorable City Council. My name is Sophia Armen. I am the co-director of Armenian American Action Network, an ethnic studies scholar specializing in Armenian American studies and Armenian diasporic studies. And I also come to you today on behalf of the Census Task Force of the ANCA Western Region. We thank you, Glendale City Council, for your support on this urgent and imperative issue. I want to thank the City Council, Dr. Abadjian, and the leadership of ANCA Western Region. As a city with the largest constituency of Armenian Americans in the United States, this has a direct bearing on the lives of the people within our beloved city. We come here today to maintain that the federal government must include the new MENA category with a subcategory on Armenians. Our Armenian community currently lacks meaningful data as a group, while being one of the largest and most impacted groups in the MENA region, according to OMB's data itself. The historical exclusion of an Armenian checkbox on the US Census has severe consequences for our quality of life, representation, and rights as Americans in this country. For example, Armenian Americans are denied opportunities for equal access to voting rights protections, as we've seen, healthcare, business, linguistic resources, and other institutional protections. This also has a direct bearing on our community's ability to deal with hate crimes, which, as we have seen, have only increased in recent years. The inclusion of an Armenian checkbox is imperative because the Armenian community has a long history in this country, and the benefits of census classification and representation are overwhelming. Armenian Americans currently do not see themselves and their experiences accurately reflected in the United States Census, which shapes both federal and local classifications, including for this city, and resultant funding, opportunities, rights, and anti-discrimination efforts. Representation on the US Census will help right many of the historical wrongs that Armenian Americans continue to face in the United States and will improve legal, educational, workplace, and linguistic access. For almost 30 years, Armenians have been fighting for this Armenian checkbox on the US Census. And as one of the 3 largest MENA communities in the US in terms of population size historically, the significance of the community must be reflected in our government forms. Our Armenian responses on the United States Census have only increased in recent decades, especially thanks to community-led initiatives like the High Counts campaign. We join other prominent Armenian and MENA organizations, scholars, and elected officials in calling for the MENA checkbox and emphasize and insist the need for an Armenian community sub-checkbox. This resolution is an imperative move towards forwarding inclusion for all of our communities in the United States and will urgently and directly impact our beloved city of Glendale. I'm happy to take any questions also as well. I do have a specialty in this, and I'd be happy to share how it will directly impact this city.
Thank you, Ms. Harmon.
Thank you.
Ayana Hamanian? I hope I pronounced your last name correctly. Hamamjan.
Yeah, that's fine. Good evening, all. My name is Ayana Hamamjan. I'm a Glendale resident. I'm here in support of the introduction of the resolution in support of inclusion of an Armenian checkbox in the 2030 census by Glendale City Council and reaffirm the need for the addition of MENA checkbox with an Armenian classification subcategory checkbox in 2023 U.S. Census classification. Armenian Americans overwhelmingly support census classifications. They are in the top 3 largest MENA population in the country, let it be historically or numerically. We believe in the inclusion of an Armenian checkbox as subcategory of a MENA checkbox is imperative because the Armenian community has not only had a history of marginalization within the U.S., but continues to be overlooked as a population, thus resulting in the denial of its rights and the benefits of census classification and representation. I know that ANCA Western Region and other community organizations have been advocating for the inclusion of an Armenian checkbox on the United States Census questionnaire for years. We welcome introduction of this resolution by Glendale City Council and urge all the members of this esteemed council members to vote in favor of this resolution. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of this important resolution.
Thank you very much. And we had 1 card submitted after the first 2. Romella, you'll have 3 minutes.
I tried to participate in 2020 census. I can't remember if there's a how they categorize people as far as they categorize ethnicity categories or by nation, because it's a very nationalistic way to approach to this. If it's so, then every nation, 200 nations are here in the United States, and then everybody has to check box under specific nationality boxes? Can somebody correct me about that?
Sure. Well, I think we can probably give you an answer. Is that the only question you have?
Yeah, because it's a very nationalistic way that you just mention Armenian in that list, or
Sure.
and those.
Okay. Well, if you'll give me an opportunity, I'll try to answer it for you. And then we'll see if I'm inadequate in my answer, then maybe we'll have one of our staff or someone answer it. But in terms of marking your census form, it's usually you can state your nation, your country of origin. But as you know, Armenians live in different countries. So if someone says they were born in Iran, it doesn't necessarily actually identify them as Armenian, even though they may be of a significant subcategory that has needs for services and other benefits that may come with being part of a group here in the United States. Same for people born in Lebanon, people born in Egypt, people born in Iraq, Syria, etc. This would allow Armenians to categorize themselves, as was mentioned by Ms. Armin, as individuals that constitute a very large minority in the Middle Eastern, Near Asia category. Mina
No,
is...
it's not Armenian. You cannot mention Armenian, a Greek or something. Like, you cannot mention nationality, your nationality.
Well, I think Ms. Armin would be more than happy to explain it to you further.
Anyway, that's a very nationalistic way to approach. You mentioned Armenians there. It's, I think, if it's so, 200 nationality are living here, so they have to have a right to.
Sure, thank you.
Have a checkbox there.
Ms. Asatryan, you had
Are
your
there any
hand up.
questions, or I just?
You can go ahead with your comment.
I just want to take a moment to commend our city clerk, Suzy Abajan, and Sophie Armin for spearheading this initiative, for having the foresight. I know our city clerk's being very humble about it, and then taking that initiative and reaching out to community organizations to create coalitions. I mentioned this during the last meeting, but this is really important in catering to the Armenian community across the United States, and so I'm glad we're doing this, and I wholeheartedly support it. If there are no comments, I'd be happy to move it.
Okay, there's been a motion. Who would like to second it?
I'll second.
All right, may we have roll call, please?
Council members Asatryan,
Yes.
Brahman,
Yes.
Divine,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian.
Yes. And may we have the last item read into the record?
The last item is City Attorney regarding revisions to nomination and selection process for boards and commissions, term limits for members of boards and commissions, addition of youth commissioners to Arts and Culture Commission, Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission, and Transportation and Parking Commission. 1, introduction of ordinance amending Glendale Municipal Code pertaining to term limits for boards and commissions and youth commissioners. 2, resolution amending the recruitment and selection process for appointment of individuals to boards and commissions. 3, resolution amending the procedure to address complaints or allegations of misconduct against members of boards and commissions.
All right, Mr. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On January 31st, the council directed our office to prepare appropriate ordinance and resolutions to revise the term limits for our boards and commissions, to establish panel system for the selection of members of the boards and commissions, and to amend the code to add youth commissioners to 3 of our boards and commissions. So with respect to the terms, the ordinance will amend the code to provide 2 4-year terms per commission. That's modifying it from the previous 3 4-year terms in the aggregate. And then in addition, the provision will include, the code will include a provision providing that any service of 24 months or longer constitutes a term for purposes of that, and to address that partial term situation that was addressed at that meeting. With respect to the panels, the resolution that's before you would create a panel system for the selection of members of the boards and commissions. 1 panel will be assigned per board or commission position that's open. The individual council members will still have 90 days after the adoption of this resolution to fill the existing vacancies or near vacancies that exist, and thereafter those positions will be filled through the panel system. That applies with the exception of the Civil Service Commission. Those positions will be appointed through the panel system immediately. The third resolution, or the third item, which is the second resolution before you, has the procedure to deal with complaints, whether it's pertaining to misconduct or performance. And given that we are moving away from the individual council nomination system, it will reinstitute the prior system, which provides for serious complaints to be investigated by our office, presented to a committee comprised of the city manager, the mayor, and a council member selected by the mayor. Alternatives to that, in terms of that second council member, an alternative can be selected on a rotation, or alternative can be selected by random, but that it's currently provided that it'll be the mayor and a council member selected by the mayor. So we ask if there's any direction on that. And then with respect to the youth commissioners, again, as you know, the council directed us to have an ordinance that would amend the municipal code to provide up to 2 commissioners for the Arts and Culture Commission, Transportation and Parking Commission, and Community Services and Parks Commission. The code, as it does with Sustainability Commission, will leave it to those commissions to establish the procedures for appointing those commissioners, and then gives them the flexibility to appoint up to 2 commissioners, so they can appoint 1 if they choose. Those student commissioners or youth commissioners will be non-voting members. They'll have to be enrolled in high school or college, and they may not be older than 25 years or older. I would just point out the current wording is high school or college. Doesn't specifically call out GUSD or GCC, so if you want to change that, we'd seek direction on that. They must be Glendale residents, and then the student commissioners are removable by the boards and commissioners that appointed them or by the city council. One point I wanted that I identified in the report I just want to call out is with respect to the Arts and Culture Commission, the current composition of that commission requires that there be 1 commissioner who's an employee, student, or volunteer of GUSD, and then another commissioner who is an employee, student, or volunteer of either community college, state university, UC, trade or vocational school. So what we've provided are 2 options with that. One is to just remove the student person with respect to those 2, because they're already going to have representation via these 2 student commissioners, or to remove those particular requirements altogether and just have it so that the current composition, the other 3 voting members are required to come from either the arts community, either be an artist, an arts educator, arts administrator, or a community leader with stewardship in art. The question is, do you want, by adding the 2 student arts and culture commissioners, do you want to keep the other provision that requires the voting members to come from either the school district, and come from a college, or would you like to remove those positions and just have it more general for the voting members? I hope I can explain that again if it's confusing, but happy to address
It's
it again.
basically reforming what we have right now on the Arts and Culture Commission to comport with the direction that we're giving across all 3.
So with that, I'm happy to answer your questions.
So there's 2 items that you need some more specific direction from us, which is the first is how whoever is mayor during a time of disciplinary action selects a council member, or how the council member is selected to be on that panel. And then the other is what to do with the voting powers of the Arts and Culture Commissioners, or with the new appointee.
With the composition of the voting members.
All right, anyone have any strong opinions or thoughts that they'd like to share right out the gate? And we do have 1 card on this.
I have one question.
Yes, Councilmember Devine.
That's concerning the term limits, the terms, 2 4-year term limits. My question is, on how many different commissions can one person serve? Can they serve on 3, which would make it 12 years? Can they serve on 4, which would make them commissioners for 16 years? Or is there anything in the...
Councilmember Devine, the direction we received from the council, which was clear to us at the time, would be 2 terms per commission. So once an individual serves on a commission for 2 terms, they can apply for another commission and serve on that commission for up to 2 years, up to 2 terms.
And how many times can they do that?
There's no limitation. And from what I heard from the council felt, the majority felt, the consensus was, if individuals want to stay involved in the city through the commission process, then the council wanted to encourage
For
that.
20 years, they could do that. or more than 20, right?
A
Make it
lifetime.
a whole life.
But I think one of the things that we would be able to do through the panel process and through a more transparent, interview to make sure that we're getting qualified candidates is to see if a person has particular expertise in an area, right? So I have yet to meet someone, including among my colleagues whom I have great respect for, who have such a wide array of expertise that they'll be able to serve on every single possible commission that we have. Maybe one, maybe two, maximum three, but you never know. Yes, Councilmember Najarian.
So one of the questions was if there's a complaint brought against a commissioner that the mayor and another council member and the city manager meet with that person. I would like the selection of that second council member to come upon concurrence of both the city manager and the mayor. I don't want to, we don't want to stack the court with,
Sure, no, that makes
with
sense.
that, so that would be the only suggestion I would make to that.
Do you have a idea or suggestion as to how that person would be selected? Are you comfortable with the mayor selecting it? Are you comfortable with from being
With
random
concurrence-
rotation?
or with the advice and concurrence of the city manager.
So what you're suggesting, Councilman Najarian, is that the mayor would select that second council member to be on that review panel, but with the concurrence and advice or recommendation of the city manager?
Yes, that's what I'm
That's fine.
suggesting.
I don't see any harm in that.
Okay, so you have direction on that?
Direction on that one, and then
And then on the terms of the arts and culture,
Just eliminate the
Voting.
GST.
I
would-
actually would like to do the opposite. I think we keep the voting member and we just add one youth seat to the Arts Commission.
so there would still be one seat that would be reserved for
So, they currently have a vote on that commission, which I think is very special. And so I wouldn't want to get rid of their voice that currently exists. And so just adding a non-voting member.
is your suggestion is for arts and culture to have one youth non-voting member, and then to have at least one voting member who is a employee or volunteer of the GUSD or a college?
Because it says employee, student, or volunteer, right? So
I'm fine.
it could be a student.
Oh, would you like to keep that in there too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
But
keep it
can I
as
ask
is, but just add one non-voting student. Yeah.
Councilmember Bachmann.
Question, yeah, do we have anybody on the commission currently that fits that category, or have we? And
We haven't, I don't know
How long has it
currently.
been?
It's probably been a while.
In the
but
past, we used to have, I think, school board members or former
yeah.
school board members,
Correct.
but we haven't had that in
We've
some
had college representatives too, I think.
Yeah.
why for the Arts Commission, why do you think for the Arts Commission that would be important and not for the other commissions?
So I would actually think that it's important for the youth to have a vote on the commissions, but since we've agreed that it's non-voting, what I don't want to do is through this process, take out and take away their vote on the commission.
So,
Okay.
sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Bachmann.
I was just going to say, we always have the option of appointing, somebody, somebody who's a student through the normal appointment process. It's not precluding us from doing that, but what it's saying is we don't have to. And for all of our commissions, we would have these two students who, looking at the Sustainability Commission, I know they're pretty active. So they're there, they're in the discussion. Yeah, they're not voting, but I think they're playing an important role. So I would just like to be consistent.
Well, I also think that Councilmember Brotman brings up a good point. We haven't had a representative from GUSD. I see the merits of having a voting member from GUSD. However, it's not like anyone's been beating down our door saying, hey, how come we don't have a voice? Where this way, if we were to add the two and give the flexibility to the existing board and commission, they can decide, one from the college, one from GUSD, get the input. It would be a youth member. And I think that would be adequate for me as well.
So are you recommending that we just remove that whole portion for the arts?
Personally, I would just recommend we remove it. I think it's the only commission where we have that, right?
Correct.
So I would just remove it, have the two youth seats. If through the appointment process, there's a student who really rises to the level that of somebody we want to put on the commission, then who's ever in that panel will do that, and we'll vote on it, and it doesn't stop us from doing it, but
Right.
I would just like to be consistent across all of our commissions.
And we've had, Mayor, we've had young 20-year-olds on commissions, and they've done a great job, so.
Okay.
So just keep it consistent.
All right, so direction on that, you're clear on?
Right, so I would just, when the time comes to introduce the ordinance with those two changes, one, the selection of the second council member would be with the concurrence and advice of the city manager, and then to remove the representation of GUSD in the colleges from the voting members and just incorporate the two non-student members.
Perfect. Okay, with that, we have Ayana Hamamjan, who has submitted a card. You'll have 3 minutes.
I just wanted to say that I agree upon term limit that can give opportunity to new, fresh minds that can have different ideas to the commission, since one person can get too comfortable in the position and get more relaxed about recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, who would like to make well, we have to introduce the ordinance, correct?
Right, so if somebody would introduce the ordinance with those
would
two
like to
changes.
introduce
I'm happy to introduce it with the two changes that we discussed.
Okay. And we have resolutions for, we need motions on the resolutions and the second. Who would like to do that? Oh, well, who made the motion?
I'll move the
resolution.
resolution.
A second.
All right,
So one
motion.
question.
Yes, Councilmember Najarian?
So when does this all start? Councilmember Devine just appointed someone.
Right.
So
The way,
do I have a 1 week window to stack, put my people in?
you have 90
or-
days from, if the resolution at E2 gets adopted, you'll have 90 days to fill any of your existing vacancies, except for civil service, which immediately we're going to have the panels established through the process, but everything else, you'll have 90 days.
They're exempt from the term limit?
No, they'll be subject to the term limits. And remember, they're subject to, regardless of whether or not they have already served a term, they're still subject to the 2 terms. It doesn't, anybody who's served more than 2 terms or who's already served 2 terms, they're not going to be removed until their term is up. If they're serving a term, their term is up. But the current terms that they've served count towards that 2-term limit.
I have another, go ahead.
So I've let several of my commissions remain static since the election. Are they deemed as holding that office?
No, if they've exceeded 2 terms, then they would need to be replaced by somebody who hasn't. And if they've, since the election, that means they still haven't served 2 years of the current term, so that wouldn't necessarily count towards a term. But if they previously served 2 terms on a particular board and commission, they need to be replaced by somebody who hasn't served 2 terms.
Okay, just give me a list.
Yeah.
I've had it several times.
Yeah, the clerk's office has a
Councilmember Devine?
pretty
I'm
complete
sorry,
list.
I have another question, but
Please.
can a commissioner serve 2 4-year terms on one commission, then move to another commission, and then come back to that original
The way it's worded, no.
commission? No, they
No.
have to be all new commissioners. Okay,
Correct.
thank you. Okay.
All right, so we have a motion. Yes, go ahead, Councilmember Al Sadrian.
It'd be great if you can just give us a specific date. That's the last date.
Okay, we'll calculate that and get it to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I was just notified we have one caller on this item. Let's hear from that caller.
Yes, we have one caller, Herbert Milano. Herbert, you're on air. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kasakian, members of the City Council. If I understood correctly, the proposal to have the city manager be a second individual to approve or recommend a commissioner in case of a removal and a replacement. And if I understand it correctly, if that is a proposed amendment, or should I say suggestion to the change in the ordinance, I would like to give you a heads up on one of my experiences that I've had.
Mr. Milano, is your question, before you go into your example, your question is whether, and I apologize, please stop Mr. Milano's time so we're not taking it. Your question is whether the city manager can recommend removal, and the answer to that question is no.
No.
Well, they would be on the panel.
It'd be on the panel to review it.
To review it.
But they do not.
Well, that panel makes a recommendation to the council
Okay.
on whether to provide some censure or removal, or just, a lot of times it'll be, hey, the panel talked to this individual member and made it clear that, behavior has to change, but no further action is necessary. for example. But yeah, they are part of the panel. The city manager is part of the panel that would be making a recommendation.
Okay, all right, with that, let's hear from, I guess, Mr. Milano.
Yeah, thank you for the clarification. I believe that there are two commissions that are fairly sensitive to the particular removal or selection, and that's the Civil Service Commission for one, and the Audit Committee. If we find an individual who is very active and knowledgeable on a particular item that the staff may not deem to be, should we say, appropriate because of the hard questioning that is being placed or the accountability that is being demanded, I wonder if this may be a problem of a conflict of interest. I've, in my personal experience with regard to applying for the Glendale Water and Power Commission, after attending practically every meeting for about 3 years, I was recommended by one of the council members, but the city manager at the time basically vehemently disapproved of my applying. And even though this came directly from the council member and he acceded, which you say, acquiesced to the demands of the city manager, whenever you find an activist or a person who is fully knowledgeable and capable but demands accountability, I wonder if there may be a potential problem for not necessarily this city manager, but any other city manager who would basically be opposed to or recommend removal. Thank you very much for the consideration.
Okay.
Just to be clear on this, so this would be if there's a disciplinary situation, the city manager's concurrence would only be with respect to that second council member. That would be part of the panel of 3, the mayor, a council member, and the city manager. And that group of 3 would then recommend to the full body what action we want to take, and then we vote on it as a body. So I think there are enough safeguards in that process.
Okay. So there has been direction, there's been motion and a second. Let's have roll call on these items and an introduction as well, so.
Council members Asatryan?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Divine?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Kazakian?
Yes, thank you very much to my colleagues for making these important changes. I think we'll be well served by them. Now we go on to,
You have oral communications. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Council may question or respond to the speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The city manager may refer the matter to the appropriate department for investigation and report. We have 1 card and 1 caller.
all right, General Mark McCarley.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, thank you for giving me a moment or so. My name's Mark McCarley, and I am the current chair of the Armenian American National Security Institute. It's a non-governmental organization. It works and coordinates closely with our Department of Defense, and its purpose is to protect and help to maintain the sovereignty and security and the emerging democracy of the twin republics of Armenia and Artsakh. And I wanted to come here specifically to thank 3 members of this council, Mayor Kasakian, Councilmember Najarian, and Ellen Asatryan. Mayor Kasakian and Councilmember Najarian came to our banquet, ANC banquet at the Taglian a couple of months ago, and provided inspiration and support for what ANC is doing. And what ANC is doing is not only that protection of security and the sovereignty and democracy, but as well providing assistance to disabled and wounded veterans of the United States Armed Forces as well as the Armenian Artsakh Armed Forces. And our biggest project is the deployment of what we call the Humanitarian Support Brigade. And the first tranche of those young people and not so young people, Armenian Americans, American Americans, Americans of all ethnicities, about 40 of them, should be deploying in August to Yerevan to begin their training in a variety of humanitarian areas such as Red Cross, casualty assistance, construction, recovery during times of crisis. All this supported by members of our community, our great community, our country, who have voluntarily come forward, made a contribution. We received no funds from the United States government nor the Armenian government. There's good reason for this, because it gives us at ANSI a great space to maneuver. And when I say maneuver, I'm going to just point to the slide, to the screen up there. And one of our most recent achievements, I just returned from Armenia about 2 weeks ago, is the opening of lecture positions for members of our armed forces. I went and I brought 2 other retired general officers. And for the first time, really in Armenia's modern history, we were asked to address the Armenian War College. And for those of you who have some sort of background, either educational or military, the Army War College here is the quintessential organization. You can't become a general until you go to War College. In Armenia, it's exactly the same thing. You cannot become a general who will make those critical decisions, both in the battlefield and defensive operations, until you go through Armenia's War College. It's called the National Defense Research University. So we spent a good number of days, and we addressed topics which were of extreme interest to Armenian ARTSOC. They included such things as the law of war, how to fight war ethically, air defense, defense against cannon, as well as drones, mission command, and for me, I'm a logistician, and logistics in combat situations. And if you put 2 and 2 together, not more than about 1,000 clicks away, we have a war underway in Ukraine. And my peers, I didn't have the opportunity to conduct training in Ukraine after the 2014 invasion by Russia, but the curriculum that we provided in this week-plus period of instruction was exactly the same as what my peers provided in the Ukraine in 2014. That's what the Armenian General Staff wanted. That's what we delivered. And thanks to you, this became a reality. So our next couple of projects, we are looking with our acknowledged benefactors, people of all walks of life who are willing to put $1, $1,000, whatever it is, toward this effort. We're looking to install an endowed chair, and as we discussed, and we invite all of you to join the Humanitarian Support Brigade. So thank you. And I forgot to say, Council Member Asatrian, you made every bloody effort to be there. You kept calling me and saying, I was going to make it, I'd make it. So I salute the 3 of you and all the rest of you as well. Thank you.
Thank you, General, for your service as well. And we have one caller.
We have one. We have one caller, Herbert Milano. Herbert, you're on air. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kasakian, members of the City Council. My name is Herbert Milano. I have been an activist in Glendale for the better part of 20 years. And every year or so, I try to apply some of my experience professionally as a systems analyst as a way of overlooking the performance of the city government. I think a good citizen should be encouraged to look at the city's performance and financial statements to really understand how the city governs and what is the impact on our quality of life. So in past years, I looked at the Glendale Water and Power. I've looked at the city's financial condition. I have looked at the pension system and the problems that it currently has. And this past year, I decided to undertake a study of the city's EMS performance as in regards to cardiac arrest. I have requested documentation through the California Public Records Act I have received information that was very skimpy, difficult to discern, and did not fully comply with my CPRA. I am basically addressing you so that perhaps the City Council could address to the staff to request a report and analysis from EMS on regards to this performance. If the City of Glendale follows the performance of the County of Los Angeles, it is very likely that out of 100 cardiac arrest victims that are attended to by EMS, maybe only a couple survive, arriving at the hospital with a heartbeat. But we don't know for sure because it appears from the data that we don't have it. And yet we have a medical director whose job is to evaluate the performance of EMS and what actions the EMS needs to improve on in order to have better outcomes. Two cities have stood out throughout the years as being the models of performance. The Mecklenburg County in North Carolina, that's the city of Charlotte, and King County in Washington, where the Seattle is. And both of the cities that have strategic planning and key performance indicators, their level of performance with regard to this measure of survivability of cardiac arrest or sudden cardiac arrest is significantly greater than any other cities in the United States, and honestly significantly greater than Glendale. And it is my hope that through the study of this performance, that the City of Glendale can begin the process of imitating and copying some of the best practices of these cities. So it is my hope that the City Council can direct the staff in the near future to request such a report that will give us a comprehensive analysis of the performance of EMS as in regards to sudden cardiac arrest. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay. That is the conclusion of oral communications. We do have some new business. Who would like to go first? Councilmember Najarian.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that the city attorney be and hereby is authorized to resolve the lawsuit entitled Sharam Nadimium et al. Versus Mira Gujura et al., case number 19-STCV-29013, in exchange for a full release of all claims in the amount of $6 million, with the city to be reimbursed by its insurance carrier for all amounts in excess of the remaining self-insured retention. The settlement is not an admission of any liability whatsoever for any wrongdoing with respect to plaintiff by defendant or any person or department, but is the compromise of a disputed claim.
Okay. Who would like to second that?
I'll second it.
Councilmember Brotman has seconded it. Let's have a roll call, please.
Councilmembers Azadrian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Divine?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian?
Yes.
Okay, I have one.
All right.
Okay, I move that the claim for damages of Corinne Gregorian be and hereby is approved for the total sum of $54,843.57 for the mudslide and water damage portion of the claim. The Director of Finance is authorized to issue a warrant in said sum for delivery by the City Attorney upon the receipt of a properly executed release.
Second.
It's been seconded. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmembers Azadrian? Brotman?
Yes.
Divine?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian?
Yes. Councilmember Devine.
I'd like to move that the council hereby approves the city attorney's appointment of Sylvia Quach as Assistant City Attorney for the City of Glendale. Further, that a written copy of this motion be transcribed, certified, and delivered by the city clerk to the Office of the Civil Service Commission of the City of Glendale as and for the written statement required by Article 24, Section 5, Subsection 2 of the Charter.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a second. Let us have the roll call vote, please.
Councilmembers Azadrian?
Yes.
Brotman?
Yes.
Divine?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Mayor Kasakian?
Yes. With that, we conclude a very long day. I want to thank my colleagues. We all started our day at 9 a.m. with a special council meeting. So now approaching the 9:23 mark, I will ask my colleagues for a motion to adjourn. Who would like to make that motion?
I'll move.
And who's
Second.
All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much. Good night and good luck.